Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. My guest this week is Kevin Kading. Kevin is the Private Lands Coordinator for the Game and Fish Department. Kevin, it's been a while, but the U.S. Department of Agriculture is opening up another general CRP enrollment. That's big news.
It is, Tom. The USDA announced a sign-up for CRP, which began December 1st, 2015. It does run through February 26, 2016, so we're kind of right smack dab in the middle of it right now. It's been a few years since we've seen this. It's good news for producers that are looking for that as an option.
CRP is basically set-aside acres, right?
It's available for producers that have maybe that sensitive area in their field or that highly erodible situation out there in their operation, and maybe it just doesn't pencil out for them and they're looking for that option out there. I mean, whole fields used to be kind of more of the common practice that you saw when enrolling into CRP. Now it seems like we're seeing producers that are picking and choosing which areas in the field and which fields in particular that they're enrolling into the program.
Why is the Conservation Reserve Program so crucial to wildlife?
If you look at the 30-year history, 30 years of CRP, just this year now, so if you look at the history, it's been there. It's been a kind of a stable source of cover out there for wildlife. When we have some of the winters that we have and some of the years where production isn't the greatest for wildlife, large tracts of grassland cover provide some pretty critical nesting cover, escape cover, fawning cover. A lot of these key ingredients for that life cycle for those critters. And one of the things that we've noticed is that ability for those populations to quickly rebound with that cover out on the landscape.
You mentioned there was one time when there were entire fields, large expanses of CRP acres. They began to dwindle. How much CRP have we lost?
Well, there's been, at the peak of North Dakota's CRP enrollment, we were around 3.3 million acres. And currently today there is about 1.2 million acres. Not all of those acres are being in ag production. Some of those are still in grass, and some of those have been transitioned into a grazing operation or hay land. So some of those acres still exist, they're just not in a CRP contract, but there is a large amount of it that did get put back in ag production in the last several years.
Let's talk about the new enrollment that started, I think you said December 1st. What can landowners do to enhance their chances or improve their chances of being accepted?
Sure. Or
have their acres accepted?
Right. Well, first of all, the sign-up is a nationwide sign-up. So a producer in North Dakota is competing with a producer in another state. And there's an environmental benefit ranking that a producer has to be part of when they enroll their land or apply for the program. And so some of the criteria really is out of a landowner's control, whether it be just location in the state and the type of soil on your land. Some of that stuff you really can't control that, but there are a few things that a producer can do. One of those would be, probably the biggest thing, is the cover selection. When they're enrolling new land into the program, new cropland, if they chose to enroll a higher diverse grass mix, more native species, more pollinator species, some of these types of things, that increases this environmental ranking, our environmental benefit index. And that gives them a better chance at competing with some other producer in another part of the country.
The Game and Fish Department and several partners have come up with a way to help landowners learn more about how they can find better ways to help their chances of being accepted. Let's talk about these workshops that are going to be going on here coming up soon.
Sure. Several options available for producers. We're always trying to look for ways to put these things in front of producers that just get them more information, to help them make better and more informed decisions. And one of the things that has been utilized in the past is landowner workshops. And currently there are a handful of these being set up across the state with Pheasants Forever and some of the other conservation partners, including our agency, where we can go through some of these ranking factors, some of these criteria that landowners have to look at when they're enrolling a piece of land, and then sit down one-on-one and talk about this piece of land versus this piece of land, and what they could do to enhance their offer, and try to work through that. There's a lot of different options being thrown out there sometimes, and it gets a little overwhelming. And so trying to help the producer walk through those just gives them a little better insight into what they're applying for.
Right. We have a number of plots biologists and private lands biologists, as does Pheasants Forever, that can help you. And we're going to show you a list of those coming up here and phone numbers that they can use. Let me ask you this, Kevin. Will the new CRP sign-up improve the quality of plots, acres, the private lands open to sportsmen program in North Dakota?
There's potential. There's always that option for producers that are looking to enroll their land into CRP if they're also interested in additional incentives for public access to allow walk-in hunting, or if they're looking for additional cost share assistance for the help with seeding or the seeding operation or the grass seed itself. That's where the plots program can step in. And so any of those acres that are eligible for CRP and that do get accepted, if the producer is looking for that additional assistance through plots, those make some very wonderful acres for the program, and those are kind of have been the backbone of the program for many years. I mean, they're the high quality cover. They're 10 to 15 year CRP contracts, so that cover is going to be out on the landscape for a number of years. And usually the producer is looking for those that other assistance.
It's hard to predict things like this, but I'll ask you to gaze into your crystal ball a little bit. You kind of had your finger, or have your finger, on the pulse of the farm bill, the way things are rolling with this kind of stuff. Do you think this is going to be the last sign up for a while for CRP acres? Maybe we get another one next year?
Right. It really is kind of a crystal ball prediction, just because one of the things that the USDA has to be looking at here is they have to balance out new acres coming into the program with what the Farm Bill actually allows. Congress actually reduced the overall nationwide cap of CRP down to 24 million acres. So USDA has to keep that in mind. They can't exceed that. So by 2017 they have to be at 24 million acres. So as acres expire, they can offer general sign-ups or additional allocations of other types of continuous sign-up, is another example of CRP. But they need to be looking at that overall cap. So I think what we'll probably end up seeing is smaller doses of CRP, smaller allocations, and but I think the program's always been very well received by landowners, by political leaders, and hunters, of course. And
sure,
I don't see it going away, put it that way. I do think it's changing, and that's not always bad. It's adapting, but it's certainly something that'll probably still be around. It's just going to be looking a little different.
All right, Kevin, thanks. As we mentioned earlier, here is a list of the times, dates, and locations for those landowner CRP workshops. Private lands biologists from the Game and Fish Department, Pheasants Forever Farm Bill biologists, and other conservation partners will discuss ways that landowners can improve their chances of enrolling land into CRP, as well as additional resources for cost share assistance and other incentives. Landowners who can't attend but are interested in further information can contact one of these biologists on this list. You can also log on to the Game and Fish website at gf.nd.gov to access the list of biologists or the times and dates for the workshops. For Kevin Kading and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you again next week.